2, 3. At Reilly, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Rally Monday, Wednesday. Is that it?
How long are we going to go?
As long as you want.
Okay.
Some of these will go, people ask me that question, and does this sound all right?
Yeah, great.
People ask me that question, and people come on here nervous, and they go, I don't know if I can do this. What are we going to talk about? 2.5 hours go by. And it's like...
Are you going to do a video, too, or just...
It's already recorded.
Okay, good.
So, everything we push through...
Good, good. As they like to say, I have a face for radio.
All right, I'm glad you believe that.
and this is my good side.
Yeah.
Not much left.
You have a voice for radio.
I have a voice,
Yeah, it matches the face. We can say that.
Yeah.
But...
just a quick story before we start.
Go for it.
I ran for office 5 times, and I did a lot of door knocking and a lot of phone calling to people who didn't know who I am. So one time I called, a person answered, and I said, "Hi, this is Ed Reilly. I'm running for state senate." And then they waited, and I said, "Are you still there?" He said, "Yeah, I thought this was recording."
Oh, because your voice is that good?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. All right, so did you ever maintain public office?
5. I got elected 5 times.
So
20 years.
What was your public office?
So I was 7 years as a county councilman for Anne Arundel County around Annapolis. I became the chairman twice and the vice chairman twice. It was a Republican-dominated body, 4 R's and 3 D's, and we did a really good job of maintaining our financial rating with the money people. We threw away a lot of crazy socialist ideas that we wouldn't allow it to come before the public. We did a really nice job for that. And then 13 years, I was a Maryland state senator. 33 D's, 14 R's. Whatever they wanted, they got. But at the same time, it allowed me to stand up and say anything that I thought was appropriate, passionate about, I was knowledgeable about, and the respect that we got in the debate was very heartening. I mean, they allowed us to talk for a long, long time, but at the end of the day,
you knew you were losing.
We knew what the vote was going to be.
Yeah,
33 to 14. So I was the voice of the on the Senate floor for in opposition to same-sex marriage. I was all in for contracts, marriage contracts, where we give both partners all the legal rights that they should have, health insurance, Social Security, all the things that have kind of were road bumps in the road. But I drew the line at the word marriage. Marriage is a sacred ceremony, tens of thousands of years old, and this changes the fundamental relationship. And it also puts a terrible strain on clergy who don't necessarily want to participate in same-sex marriage unions. And those were some of my discussion points on it.
So you're opposed to same-sex marriage?
I'm not opposed to same-sex unions. The marriage is the tipping point in my personal life.
Why? Is that just like a
It's
belief?
the religious side.
But you would vote against it for your own beliefs? You would
Oh,
vote...
absolutely.
Okay.
Now,
See,
that brings up another question. When you're an elected official, should you take a survey on every issue of your constituents and vote what they want? Or are they counting on you to come with certain core values that they may like or not like and expect you to vote your core values? And that's a very delicate balance.
Yeah.
And I got a great example of that.
Go for it.
My first major vote on the county council. We've had a terrible time for many, many years with the police, public safety, fire unions, and the county executive who had the veto power over their raises. There was no binding arbitration. So the prior council, 7 folks, elected officials, voted to put it on the ballot as a referendum. 72% of my constituents in my district said there should be binding arbitration. And I'm not a union guy. If that referendum had not taken place, I would have voted against binding arbitration because the county executive has the responsibility to balance the budgets. And by inserting binding arbitration, it removes a certain part of that power to protect the cash flow, the financial rating of the counties. But when 72% of the voters said they wanted binding arbitration, I was the swing vote, 3 Democrats and me, to get it passed.
Explain to me what binding arbitration is.
Whenever a contract expires, let's say it's the police union,
Okay.
About 6 months beforehand, the administration and the union get together and they talk about their desires, their wishes. They want a raise, they want better benefits, they want allocation for guns and uniforms and time off and things of that nature. So there's a negotiation that occurs for probably 6 months. And at the end of that period of time, if they haven't reached an agreement, then the existing contract goes into effect until they have an arbitration. And for many, many years, the arbiter ruled in favor of the union because they looked at all the different unions in the state. They looked at different characteristics of the finances of the county, the state of the future of the county, and they generally ruled in favor of the union because their union requirements or requests were pretty reasonable. But the county executive, because it was non-binding, had the ability to reject it. So this law says if an independent arbiter rules in favor of the union, the county has to give them a raise. So again, it's traditionally not a Republican advocacy position. I had no strong opposition to the union, but I'd like the county executive to have the authority. But when 72% of the citizens in a registered legal vote said give it to them, I voted for it.
Okay.
St. Patty's Day,
All right.
2003. So it was my first major vote. It was very interesting.
Well, how long have you been out of office?
2 years.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk some current events now because we are talking this two-party system that's in America. When exactly did that two-party system become solidified in America, that it was Democrat, Republican? Because it wasn't always like that. There was other parties.
I believe around 1900, around that time.
Theodore Roosevelt?
The parties started picking candidates, and they started financing candidates, and that really started to create the gap in the middle. They started to get polarized, the balkanization of the parties, and even through the 40s and 50s, and I was born in '49. Even the 50s weren't too bad. You had Eisenhower and Kennedy coming up, and then when Nixon started coming along. Parties started asking for purity. Parties started asking for loyalty.
Well, you don't think that's the Industrial Revolution starts to happen around the 1900s, right? So money starts coming in. You have tycoons that start coming in. You have people who have interests that start coming in. Now it's not just the interests of the U.S. It's steel coming in. It's oil coming in.
Yeah.
Now you have this other money coming in. Now they can start buying politics.
So it's interesting because smart folks, a lot smarter than me, back in that 50s, 60s, 70s era, started to do campaign finance reform. It wasn't necessarily as strong as it is today. But again, some Supreme Court decisions came along. Citizens United was a big Supreme Court decision that basically said people can vote with their wallets by putting money into special accounts, special interests. Maybe not to the candidate, but they can put money in to try to tip the balance, and that's what a big discussion's been about the past 12 years with Elon Musk and all the different people on each side of the aisle.
Tech companies, anything like that.
All that. They're trying to fund parties who support their ideology, who are going to invest government money into their businesses, and it's creating a problem.
I mean, I think it's creating a problem. We were talking about it a little bit yesterday. You have a politician who goes in making, $30,000, $70,000, and whatnot, and all of a sudden they're leaving office $30 million, or like a Nancy Pelosi with a net income of, or whatever her overall earnings are of like $400 million.
Yeah.
Or even like an Obama who steps in, and when he steps out of office, I think he was around $400 million as well.
I don't know who stepped out of office with that much, but I can guarantee within 2 years, between his speaking engagements, with the publication of books, they make a lot of money.
Where's he getting that money from?
Speaking engagements, special interest.
$400 million?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. It's a very interesting question. So I'll give you a very current issue. When I was on the floor of the Maryland State Senate against same-sex marriage, my primary opponent on the floor was a very articulate constitutional lawyer, a law professor by the name of Jamie Raskin. Raskin left the Maryland State Senate, ran for Congress, got elected, and within 2 years was an outspoken critic of Trump, and he has moved up in the ranks. What they call the new congressmen are backbenchers. You sit in the backbench, you vote with the party, and you keep your mouth shut. Well, Jamie Raskin has risen through the ranks in like 6 years to a very prominent public position. So they make about $175,000 a year as congressman, and in his last financial disclosure, he has $30 million in the bank. There is a lawsuit to discover where those dollars came from.
They'll never find it. They won't.
His wife is a federal judge, not necessarily at the Supreme Court or the federal district court, but she's a judiciary type person. Between them, I'm sure they're making $400, but in 6, 7 years, you don't go to that level.
You think that's insider trading, or you think that's payoffs from pharmaceutical companies, tech companies, things like that?
I don't think it's payoff because he's too smart to take payoffs.
Yeah, but I don't think I think he's too smart to take a direct payoff, right? And then it goes into some kind of charity fund, or it goes through somebody else's bank account. I think they're smart enough not to take a direct one, but they're smart enough to take an indirect one.
You know, that's the criticism of our President Biden, that his family was the beneficiary, and somehow it flowed back to him.
Yeah.
It's the light is being shown, and that is the key, Frank. The light is being shown. People are willing to ask questions when previously they'd say, oh, it's none of our business, it's over our pay grade. People are asking serious questions now to try to uncover these issues. I'll guarantee you, Paul Rand, we were just talking about him a few minutes ago off air, I wouldn't think that he has much more than he has in his bank account from his government check.
I think the only one speaking out would maybe be a Rand Paul or like a Massey.
Absolutely.
Massey speaks out about it, but and he's not the one benefiting from it as much.
I'll bet you we come to find out Mr. Fetterman, Senator Fetterman, is on that side of the aisle.
I like Fetterman right now.
Yeah, disclosure and transparency. So the newspapers, the media say sunlight is the best disinfectant for political problems. Shine the light on the problem, discuss the problem, bring it out for public awareness.
Oh, I think those roots run deep, though. It's hard to shine some sun on something that's underground.
Yeah,
and I think it's just a working system that goes on and on throughout it. And I do have this belief. I really, truly do believe that people get into politics for the right reason. Mm-hmm. I do. And I'll give you an example. And then they start getting mucky, and you start getting a little twisted, and then you have to twist back to make sure, because everyone's twisting from different directions. There's a woman that I want to, hopefully she still wants to come out because she didn't win this election, but she was running for judge in this county. And her name, I'm going to say her name. It's Chelsea Crocker Jackman, and I meet her at St. Patrick's Day last year, and she's like, "I'm running for judge," and she's this like go-getter, like a very great spirit. It was probably one of my favorite people I met this year. Like just so much fun to talk to. It's so eager, and she runs on like a lot of helping children with in like lower income communities and things like that, and she's knocking on doors, and I talked to her a couple of times throughout, while she's running for election, and she's knocking on doors, and she's passing out papers, and she's talking to as many people as she can. And I said, well, would you want to come on a podcast? And I gave her a whole thing. I was like, you come on here. We're not very big or anything yet, but I can clip it for you. I can give you stuff to push out for yourself if you ever need it. I'll give you content if you want it. And she said, no, I can't do that. I'm not allowed to. And I said, okay. She said, yeah, running for judge, I'm not allowed to. And my constituents aren't either. So about 2 months before the election, she calls me and says, I think I might want to do the podcast. I said, why? She said, everyone else is doing it. And I said, wait a second, Chelsea. Isn't this why you got into politics not to be this person, and now you want to do the opposite of what you were told is incorrect?
Yeah. So there's a difference between legally incorrect and traditionally incorrect. For instance, I think
they walk that line a lot.
Oh yeah, I have a good friend who's a judge, gets appointed in Maryland, and then has to stand for election at the next round of elections, and they're out raising money, shaking hands. But once they get to be a judge, they disappear. They can't go to political events. They can't endorse. They can't contribute. And I think again, some of the judges, it's not legal that they don't have to do it, but I think some of the judges may be slipping through that to try to help their friends. But in any event, it's an interesting thing. Door knocking. Oh, my goodness. I love door knocking.
You're ridiculous. That's insane.
Every cycle, I got elected 5 times. Every cycle, I knocked on about 3,000 doors in different neighborhoods. So somebody will come up to me, and Frank, honest to goodness, 20 years after I knocked on somebody's door, they'll walk up to me on the street and said, you walked up my driveway when I was raking my leaves, and you shook my hand and you asked for my vote, and I still remember it. Because so few elected officials or candidates want to do that. It's hard.
It takes a lot of time. You got a lot of doors shut in your face.
Yeah.
I worked for a company where I had like a sales role, earlier on and after college, and I did knock on doors, and it was brutal.
Yeah. One of the most common things I heard as I made my rounds is, you're the first candidate who has ever come to my door, and they remember it.
Well, I think that's 100 years ago that wouldn't have been as uncommon, to see your actual figure who's in public office, especially in your little city or county, whatever it is. Now it's I don't even know who I'm voting for these days. I go to the office I go to vote, and I'm like, I know one person on here.
Yeah. And we talk about campaign finance reform. There's also this voter education reform in our area. We get a sample ballot about 90 days before the election, and you have an opportunity for that period of time to look at the names, to go do research, see where they stand. And I think that's a very effective tool. Not a lot of people do it, but it's a very effective tool for those who have an interest.
All right, so if there's no possible way that we can take down this two-party system, it's too big now, right? It's red, it's blue.
I tell you, the R's and the D's in this world have created laws, regulations, and requirements on the election processing that insulates them from being attacked. In New York State, which has one of the most liberal configurations of establishing a political party and getting on the ballot, at one point had 12 other parties listed beside the R's and the D's. There was a Socialist Party, there was a Right to Life Party, there was Workers' Party, there was an Environmental Party. But all of them fall by the wayside because voters go to R or D. And
well,
it's a problem.
Money. They got the money that we know who the R's and D's are, right? Like that's like the New York Giants are in New York, right? And you try to put in these little small football teams. No one knows who they are. The Giants have the money. They're going to get the advertising. You're going to go see their games.
So Frank, on TV the other day, I saw an advertisement for the United Football League.
Yeah, and not going to watch it.
Who?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't think there is an answer to this two-party system, and I don't think there is a right candidate on either side right now.
So we want to talk a little bit more about the problem which occurs in this structure which does not allow dissent. Like Fetterman is a dissenter. I don't know. He may be reelected by the folks in Pennsylvania every year for his life. I don't know. But the party's not going to like him. They're not going to promote him into areas of leadership. But what happens is, with the redistricting and the gerrymandering, they make more and more concentration of one party.
Explain to me what gerrymandering is.
Sure. So the majority party in the state has their hand on the pen that redraws the line. And in some cases, they will go along and pack a district with so many of their registered party members that it is a ironclad win. And they'll take another district and they'll crack it and send voters to different areas to dilute the influence of that district. I have always found it is absolutely immoral for that to happen, but the Supreme Court said it's legal. Now, there's an exception to it. You cannot redistrict an area if you're diluting the voting strength of minorities.
That sounds like political redlining. I don't even know.
Well, it's interesting. So there's a term in politics called a minority-majority district. That's where you have a district and it's 51 or 52% minority. That's a majority of the voters are minority. And so you have, and I'm going to presume that they're African American, that the Democrats control the area and they control the pen. So they have a candidate who runs for office, gets elected, and he's a moderate Democrat. And he's not voting for all the progressive or left-wing attitudes that are put in front of him. So what does this party do? They find a farther, more liberal, more progressive candidate, Democrat, to vote against that Democrat, and they remove the moderates, leaving us with even more and more radical folks. But this isn't just a Democratic problem. Tennessee, Florida, it's in the South, Texas, the Republican parties are redrawing lines to create more Republican majority districts. And the Supreme Court only weighs in, or the state Supreme Court only weighs in, if they think minorities are being disenfranchised.
This sounds like our votes don't count at all.
Well,
it sounds like we're just going to redraw the lines and we're going to make it work for us.
That's right. So it's interesting. In Maryland, 66% of the voters are Democrats, 33 are ours. 2-1. You know, they got the numbers. They're going to do what they want. So as far as gerrymandering, it's named after a governor in New England, Gary, who drew one of the first crazy districts that looked like a dragon in the 1910 election or thereabouts. And so one of the local media up there called instead of a salamander, it was a gerrymander. But it has become a very common term. I was gerrymandered out of my seat a few years ago.
You actually saw this new map, these new lines that were drawn?
I had to vote on it.
What?
So here's the story. Every 10 years, the United States government does a census. And in Maryland, there were 47 districts, and each district had to have a plus or minus 5% size. So they're essentially one man, one vote for 47 districts. But they can maneuver the lines to make sure that the registered voters in each district make up what they want. So 12 years ago, the leader of the Senate, a Democrat, and the leader of the House of Delegates, House of Representatives, a Democrat, said District 33, where Ed Reilly represents, is a primarily Republican district. We're going to pack it. We're going to put precincts all around the edges that are Republican into his district, and he'll be bulletproof. No Democrat will ever take that seat from Ed Reilly. And for 2 elections, it actually happened.
So you were pro gerrymandering then?
Yeah, I was. They call it packed. I was packed. Now, they had other districts where they were packing it with Democrats. But again, they still had so many Democratic registered citizens that they can do that. They can move the blocks around. Now, 10 years later, my buddy, the president of the Senate, and my friend, the president of the House of Delegates, died during that interim. The new people, they didn't like me. So they cracked my district. Out of
That's ridiculous.
140,000 bodies, they took 50,000 reliable Republican voters, and they took them out of my district and they assigned them to other districts. And then they brought, because it has to be balanced, they brought 50,000 predominantly Democrats into my district. And I know there were Democrats because it's the demographic characteristics of multiple family housings, minority neighborhoods, low income. 50,000 was attached to my district. Now, this was done after a census. It was done on the 10-year cycle. Very legal. The Supreme Court said it was okay for them to do it. And I went from a 55% Republican vote in my district to a 55% Democratic vote. There's no way I would have won. So I left.
So who's drawing these lines?
Democrats.
Well, Republicans are drawing them too.
Yeah, Republicans are in the room. Republicans are in the room.
In your case, but not around the world.
No. In
the U.S.
In my state.
Yeah, but they're doing it in Florida too. They're doing it in Texas too.
Oh, yeah. Now, the problem...
But you have to vote on it, right?
It's a piece of legislation to change the maps.
In where?
In the state.
Okay. And has it ever not passed? Has anyone ever tried to gerrymander these lines and it doesn't pass?
It passes and then it gets challenged in court. And that has come up several times in the past 5 years.
This sounds like a huge waste of time, too, that you guys are doing. You're spending time in court trying to say, hey, we shouldn't redraw these lines.
Yeah. Well, here's the next issue we're facing as a nation is Trump has sent out the word to the Republican-dominated states, don't wait 10 years to redraw the lines. Redraw them today to affect the next election, because in the House of Delegates, there's only 1 or 2 vote difference. And if Trump can encourage Republican state legislatures to pick up 2 or 3 or 4 seats in each state, it gives them a big advantage. So in California, Newsom is pushing back the other way. He wants to have a redistricting to increase more Democratic seats. So it's a political football, and I think it does a disservice to the citizens.
I think you just did a disservice to football. Okay. It's not a political football, all right.
Very good. Anyway, redistricting is a very common thing, but it's getting under more scrutiny. And I have another story about this redistricting stuff in the current state of our federal government. Now, as I said, Maryland 2-1, Democrats do what they want. But in Washington, D.C., when you have a balanced United States Senate, where if 1 or 2 people change their mind, let's suppose 1 or 2 Democrats vote with the Republicans can get things through. If a couple Republicans side with the Democrats, they can stop things from getting through. But those dissenters, they got a target on their back.
That's ridiculous.
Those are the people who the party will go after because they're not loyal. They're not going along with the program. They're not buying into the values that these parties represent, even though the values may be skewed. But when you have that balance, every vote matters. And in a philosophical way, that's good.
This sounds like a corruption that I didn't ask for. As you know, as a layman, as an everyday individual, I don't know in these lines. I didn't vote on these lines being drawn.
But you voted for the representatives who drew the lines.
I want to see these lines when they start running for office next time. I don't even want to see. I don't think the lines should be allowed. I don't think this redrawing of lines should happen.
But the Supreme Court said you have to have a balance in every district. 1 man, 1 vote. Let me give you a great example of this. In 1900 in Maryland, there's 24 counties. There was 1 state senator per county. Now, we have Talbot County on the southern end of the eastern shore with 23,000 people. They had 1 senator vote. Then you had Montgomery County, next to Washington, D.C., with 600,000 people. 1 vote. That's not fair either.
So is this the whole theory that, the borders were open during Biden to allow these individuals in, and then they just redraw these lines where all these possible immigrants went?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get to that in a half second. So what happened is there was federal law, the Fair Voting Act, which required one vote, one person, so to speak. So now on the Eastern Shore, Talbot County is joined with 4 other counties to make up 140,000 people. And Montgomery County has now today 1 million people. So they actually have like 6 state senators. So in the 1900s, we had a rural-orientated government. Today, we have an urban-orientated government. And it just flipped the focus. Now, what was that last thing you said to me?
This is okay. So when the individuals are
the
coming
folks
across
coming
the
in.
border, right? Well, I never understood it. I just figured they pack cities,
Yeah.
right, and very democratic cities. The larger cities are the democratic ones, like Los Angeles or Chicago and New York.
Yeah.
But you're saying that they pack the cities and they redraw the lines.
They redraw the lines to make sure that each representative has a certain number of folks.
But you just added 1 million people to a city.
Yeah. Now, watch this. The census, where the redistricting is based upon, does not count voters. It does not count only voters. It does not count only citizens. It counts bodies. So if 1 million people come into Chicago, those 1 million people may not be able to vote, but it could add a number of representatives to that city. And that's a real interesting nuance, but it's true. In Western Maryland, we have 3 state penitentiaries. Those incarcerated citizens, for a while, were represented by a senator from that district, giving them more representation for that area. So a law was passed that said, if you're a incarcerated citizen, you're actually, even though you might be in Allegheny County, Maryland, you're from Baltimore City, we're going to move your count back to your home. So even though some of the neighborhoods were emptied because of incarceration, now the numbers are brought back so that the cities may maintain their representative. It's an interesting discussion.
This is a lot of thinking to do. Someone's sitting there going, how do we sway the votes? How do we get our people into office?
Exactly right. And when you have 66 to 33%, you can come up with it. And the Supreme Court said gerrymandering, redistricting for political reasons is correct.
Has anybody ever tried to stop gerrymandering?
Yeah, these cases went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, no, it's okay, as long as you don't discriminate against minorities.
This makes me hate our politics even more.
Well, it gives me pause to be happy with our Supreme Court. Some things they've done were great. Some things they've done were not so great. When Trump was elected the first time, part of my mantra was checks and balances. Our government has checks and balances, which is supposed to provide a great deal of security. Take out the wackos, take out the extremists, because then if you have an extreme president, then you have a Congress that'll help, and if they won't do it, then you have a court system that'll help. Well, this hasn't always played out well. There's a lot of unhappy people in the United States because we don't think the 3 sections of government are truly balanced to protect our personal interests.
I think people are struggling with that right now. It seems like the
Yes.
executive branch is kind of taking control right now, especially in Venezuela.
Yeah.
It sounds like Trump is going to be, using that power a little bit more at the moment.
So he has made an example out of Maduro, and he may threaten to do that. Who knows? I don't know if he can do it in Iran, but he could threaten to do it in an awful lot of countries in southern America and southern hemisphere.
Mexico. Yeah, in Mexico. Now, how do you have thoughts on Maduro? On what happened there?
I'm sad it happened because in a sense it violated the country's sovereignty. I'm glad it happened because he's a bad guy, but it's creating a vacuum. And who fills the vacuum, Frank, is the question. Because if his cronies and his infrastructure just fills the vacuum, we've accomplished nothing in terms of cooperation with China and Russia and access to oil and protection of the citizens of Venezuela. I don't know how removing one person can solve all the problems in the country. I think it creates questions, and people are uncomfortable with indecisiveness and ambiguity.
I think it's pushing us towards being, an empire in a way. They're pushing us in that whole empire talk. And the one thing, though, that I did kind of like with Trump doing this, or at least afterwards, is we've done these things before. We've tried to go into other countries before and do this, and we have done this in other countries, Saddam Hussein, things like that. But we kind of lied about it, where Trump said, we're there for the oil, and we're doing this for the oil. And he didn't lie about it. He was just like, this is why we're here. We don't want Russia to have it. We don't want China to have it. It's in our hemisphere. We want it. And that honesty made me kind of feel all right. I think Maduro's a bad guy. I think the people of Venezuela were suffering. Yeah. And if they do really have the largest oil reserves, we're going to see what we do with it. Are we going to give it to Venezuela to become a wealthy country again, but also make ourselves wealthy, or things less expensive?
It's not a simple analysis. It'll be worked out over the next 10 or 20 years. But for Venezuelan oil not to go to China, not to go to Cuba, not to go to other quote-unquote bad regimes, I think is a good thing.
I do too. And I think a lot of people, even though they hate Trump, they kind of have to realize that. It's either going to go to us or it's going to go to the people who hate us. And I don't want it to go to the people who hate us. Yeah. No matter how much I don't think people in this country really realize how bad it is if the people who hate us come after us. It starts to happen.
We sit in a beautiful home, in a beautiful community, in a great state. We don't realize how vulnerable we really are. Whether, if, for instance, they talk about China having the ability to turn off our electric, our water, our sewer, take down our electric grid. I'm sorry, that could create such mass civil unrest for decades in the United States, and I don't think we have a good handle on how deep it could go.
You think if we're that vulnerable to having some kind of electromagnetic pulse knocking out our grid, why haven't they done it?
They still want our money to help fund their society. They're still, even with all the tariffs, they're still shipping billions of dollars a week, material here, and we're sending billions of dollars back to them.
And then what? They just reach a certain point and say, all right, we have enough money that we can take on America?
Yeah, but they have too many people to be independent.
In China. Yeah, have you heard that their land is not as fertile anymore as it used to be? So they need our crops and things like that as well.
Soybeans, grain.
Yeah, they need our stuff.
Lumber.
So why does China hate us?
It's a little bit like Iran with a theological-based government. China has a communist-based government that I guess is jealous of free market. But they shouldn't be, because they're selling us stuff. The free market society helps to support what they try to do in their country. I don't know. It's a difficult question, and I above my pay grade.
Have you ever been to China?
No.
Are they living? They're not a third world country.
No.
Are they living? Do they have any kind of the same freedoms that we do?
No, absolutely.
Right, no freedom of speech. We are the only country with that First Amendment, right? That
England?
No, they do not have the First Amendment.
Really?
They do not have the freedom. We are the only country with the First Amendment with the freedom
Canada?
of speech. You haven't seen what's going on in England?
No.
Oh my God, people are getting locked up for posts, like social media posts.
Really?
There's this guy. He went on Rogan, and he put out a post against trans, and by the time he got back to England, they locked him up.
Frightening.
Oh, that's terrifying. That's not a freedom of speech.
I turned on Chappelle by mistake one night, and he is ranting against the transgender society, and I'm saying to myself, people paid to go to this humor?
I love Dave Chappelle. He does something different than other comedians, though. He doesn't really tell jokes. He kind of tells stories that end up being funny because he's Dave Chappelle. And I don't think anyone can everyone can tell the story that he does in the way that he does. It makes it funny.
And by the way, FYI, he's a Marylander.
Yeah, he is. I knew that. Isn't he from Baltimore?
Silver Spring, right outside of D.C. Okay. He claims D.C. is kind of his adopted home, but any of it. So there was another thing that we were talking about Trump becoming a colonizing countries. A very good family member that I love dearly called the other day and said, "Aren't you worried about civil war?"
No.
I said no. She said, 2,000 troops invaded Minnesota and are killing citizens. Aren't you worried about that? And I said, yes, I'm worried about people dying. But these troops are trained. They're after a specific section of criminals. I'm glad that they're doing their job. I'm sorry bad things happen. But I don't sense that that would ever lead to a civil war.
I think it'd be. Have you seen that movie Civil War? Do you know what I'm talking about? The one that came out a couple of years ago.
No.
It's Kirsten Dunst is in it. A couple of people. The way that they portray it is that there's this Western Front versus like our current political or current government, and the Western Front seems to have an entire army, and it's like California, Colorado, Florida versus our current regime, and they make it seem like they are stocked up on United States military supplies, and I just don't. That's why a civil war wouldn't happen. There might be civil unrest, but there's not going to be civil war because that to go against our military is you're done. You lose.
Yes, Venezuela.
Yeah, that's Venezuela. I mean, you say like, I'm not saying I'm pro what happened to Venezuela or against it or anything, but the way they went in there and did in 3 hours what we couldn't do in 20 years in Afghanistan or in the Middle East is extremely impressive.
I was very proud of what they did and how they protected themselves and how they had a narrow focus. Nothing is being said, though, about something that's in the back of my head. I was told that they took out communications.
Yes, they turned off all the
power grids.
Yes.
Have they ever been restored?
Yeah, I think they were restored.
Yeah.
I think they had someone on the inside that kind of cut them off. It wasn't like we put a sonic boom out there and it turned off all the power. We had someone on the inside that turned it off.
Wow.
So it seems like I watched this guy. We apparently have been installing CIA agents for years that have been going into Venezuela, and we've had ones, especially in the last 5 or 6 months, who have worked their ways in as little splinter cells, and they infiltrated and they turned off the power. It wasn't like we did anything to turn it off.
We didn't blow up a power plant?
No, we turned it off. Someone on the inside.
Somebody turned a switch.
Oh, they paid a lot of people off.
Oh, yeah. I believe that.
And that power went off. And we went in, and it was night vision goggles, everything that we were using. The one interview we were talking about, I don't think you said you've seen it yet. It was like a security guard or so. I think it was security guard is his title. But he said they went in and they were shooting with extreme precision that no one's ever seen before. They took everybody out. It was like 80 bodyguards, just something like that, right out. And then there was this odd weapon that was used that was making us vomit, headaches, disorientation, everything. That was terrifying. And it really does make it. He does say nobody should mess with the United States because they are far superior than everybody else. But it seems to have been written in this way that seems like it was somewhat propaganda.
Yeah. Frank, I'm a big history buff. One of the things that happened prior to World War II was the Franco War that happened, I think, in Spain. And Germany sent...
I thought that was a Spanish...
Spanish, yeah.
Yeah,
that's in Spanish.
That's like To Whom the
Spain,
Bell Tolls.
Spanish?
To Whom the Bell Tolls, right? Doesn't he write the book on that? Ernest Hemingway?
But Germany sent all kinds of planes and tanks and machine guns to test how they operate in the war environment.
It's like a proxy.
I'm sorry, Ukraine, drones, missiles, Iron Shield, this
100% that's a proxy war.
I know, but the incursion into Venezuela, this may be opportunities for our armed services to fine-tune, especially in Ukraine, what Russia has. Every time they launch 1,000 missiles, we're evaluating the missiles and how to knock them down and where's the control and command and what do we have that can counter that. And I think it's encouraging to me but it's also concerning to me.
Yeah, but it takes so much to make a ballistic missile. I don't think people understand that. It's just they don't just have a machine that's going to print out a ballistic missile. It is extremely high tech stuff to make it. Yeah. And when Iran sends over 40% of their stockpile, that's 40% of their stockpile. Yeah. To be able to remake those takes a long time. Yeah.
And then the other thing is drones. We have our little play drones. Some of these drones are as big as tractor trailers.
Oh yeah, they're planes. They're gigantic.
Unmanned aircraft. But again, all costs money. All has to be.
Well, we saved money by just doing it in 3 hours, taking out Maduro.
I get that.
Do you believe that Maduro is being charged with the correct crimes then? Do you know what he's being charged with?
Yeah. I know generally what the public has been fed.
Yes.
I don't know how many page indictment of drug dealing and murders and corruption and payoffs.
And like the possession of machine guns, which is strange because a lot of people have machine guns in Texas, So like that sounds a little silly. I don't like that one. I like the drug possession stuff because I believe I mean, we got to also say that Biden had I think it was a $50 million bounty on Maduro's head in 2019 or 2020. Biden wanted him to. He wanted somebody else to bring him to us, though. He didn't want to go get him.
I know.
So if he was part of that cartel, I'm 100% okay with taking out any kind of cartel. But
again, you cut off the head, will there be a vacuum that's filled by worse people, more radical people, more controlling people? We don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, you ever see the other side of it? Okay, so you have El Chapo, right? El Chapo comes and you call he's a Sinaloa cartel, right? You stop him, he has sons.
Yep.
And then you have other people who want his power. Now, have you ever seen like that television show Ozark?
Yeah.
Right? You have?
Oh, yeah. I loved it.
It's a good. I've seen it twice. It's actually, I think, better the second time. But one thing, you kind of see this other. They definitely make that cartel member seem like he is this group. He will kill you. He will. You betray him. Talk about loyalty. You do anything against him, you're out. But then you also see this other side. They show it a little bit, and they could show it more. But it's also an economy. It's a livelihood.
Oh, yeah.
It is creating $80 billion, if I think that's around the right number that the cartels make a year. There's farmers. There's all these people. So in a way, I don't, they're producing something that's destroying America and destroying others, right? But it is also this, I think, probably the largest economy in Mexico.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree.
But I would also love for that cartel because I'm sober, right? So I've watched a lot of friends and a lot of other people struggle with addiction and things like that. And most of I don't think the drugs were coming from Venezuela. I think they were coming more from like Colombia or Mexico, and then China. Have you ever seen that interview with his name is Andrew Santino? I talked about this on one of the podcasts I did. He has this channel called Channel 5, and he goes into San Francisco. He goes into Chicago. He goes into Kensington, Philadelphia. Do you know Kensington right here? No. Kensington is the largest open-air drug market in the United States right now.
Really?
Yes, it is. And I have many friends who have been in Kensington. I've been in Kensington. You go in there, and you walk down to these little bodegas, and you pretty much ask them if they have the substance that you're looking for, or they point you in the right direction of where you need to go get it. And it is insane. You freely walk those streets, and you can get any drug that you want. And the police pretty much just stay on the perimeter.
Baltimore has that too.
Baltimore is like the second worst right now, I think. But Kensington's now considered, and it has been for the last 8 or 10 years, largest open-air drug market in the U.S. Baltimore has that as well. I don't know what it's called in Baltimore, what street it is or whatnot. It's K&A. Yeah. It's Kensington, Allegheny, and Philly. But
so the question is, why don't elected officials have the strength to send in the troops, quote-unquote, the troops, state police, local police, special assigned people to go in and clean it out?
One, they actually did just do this a couple months ago in Kensington. The mayor of Philadelphia sent in a whole crew. Kash Patel was part of it as well. I don't know if he's going to stay our FBI director or not, but went in and took out a large segment of the individuals who were selling most of the fentanyl and the trank is what they call it in Kensington. That individual was actually interviewed on Channel 5 on his little documentary that he had, which is a little kind of odd because you watch this guy get interviewed and now he's getting carted out a couple of years later. But The other one is, I think these politicians are lining their pockets. Why to look the other way? Do you know, like Iran Contra, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or let's go back to Arkansas and Clinton, right? Do you know what was his name? The individual who was flying cocaine from Colombia into
I saw the special on it.
American Made. They made a movie about it. Tom Cruise plays Barry Seal, right? You have all these individuals. They're the politicians. I used to have this joke that was Florida would be the last state to ever legalize any drugs because it's such a large port city, and the politicians are getting their pockets lined for things to keep coming.
And if they become legalized, they lose that source of revenue.
Yeah.
But the other issue is, I'm all for picking up the street level dealers, but you have to go a whole lot higher than that.
It's silly. You pick up the street level dealers to say we're doing something about it. That's it. And you need to. So I'm okay with Trump categorizing cartels as terrorist groups because then if they do anything on our soil, then we can go in and get them in their country.
They have a higher level of tools in their toolbox to go after them.
It allows us to go in and do a little bit more than what we're
currently doing.
Yeah. But I mean, you have to grow these things, right? Fentanyl is a little bit different. That's made in the lab now, but like cocaine, opium, things like that, those fields are grown in like Chihuahua and things like that in other parts of Mexico. You can take out those fields. You can take out these people. We know where people are all the time now. Yeah. It's not that hard to find them. Yeah. We can keep going. It's up to you. No? All right. Is this a touchy subject for you?
No. I'm getting a little tired.
Oh, okay.
So, Frank, this has been a great experience, and I'm very energized about it, but when I leave this little seat, I'm going to be pretty exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm 78, 76. I'm an old guy. Come on.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to say when it comes to?
I do have a general comment that I usually use on the stump, whatever group I may be in front of, is if you find someone, a young person with intelligence and character, find a way to encourage them to run for office and support them in their path. For instance, Paul Rand, I don't think, started as a U.S. senator, but somebody found him as a young man. Somebody, quote unquote, a group of people, his friends, his family.
Dad was in it, wasn't he?
I'm sorry?
Rand Paul, you're talking about?
Yeah.
His dad.
His dad.
Yeah.
But they recognized in the son qualities, and they moved him forward as much as they could help him. In your life, find somebody, a lawyer, a businessman, preferably a businessman who understands that with taxation and with cash flow to governments, if you're the guy signing the back of the check, you haven't paid a price to make good decisions. If you're the guy who's signing the front of the check, you're the boss, you're the employer, you understand taxes and unemployment and withholdings and all that other stuff because you live with it, and you're better prepared to talk about these public policy issues when you get to a position where you can help make decisions.
I would love that. It sounds great, but I believe that politicians are groomed these days.
Well, then find somebody and groom them.
Yeah, well, that's what they do. And just like an athlete, you take a Lionel Messi, you take a Cristiano Ronaldo, you take all these, great football players that we have in America, and they are groomed at a young age to become extremely athletic, to know the game, to know how to play it, everything like that. They do that with politicians these days, and they've been doing it for a while. You can go back through all of our presidents, and they were groomed at a young age to go into office.
Well, now we need us, citizens, to start that same process. That's my encouragement. Whether people do it or not, I can't tell you, but that's my encouragement.
We'll end with this. Have you ever seen the chart? This kid ended up doing it, but it was like every president was related in some weird way. It was like someone was like a cousin or a second cousin of each other.
Only for the past 20 years. Clintons and Bushes and
even Obama, I think, was related to someone. I forget what it was, but there is. I just think there's a corrupt system, and the veil's over our eyes. We can't see it, and there's nothing we can do.
I'm encouraging young people, intelligent, moral, get engaged. Whether it's the school board, the county board, the state, they need to start somewhere, and sometimes they need a smart, intelligent, articulate friend to say, take the step.
All right, I'll take the step. I'm just kidding. I would
Not
never want to
you.
get in thank you. Yeah, I would never want to get in politics. I just don't think I'd.
But you know people.
I'd be sent right to HR.
But you know people.
Politics needs to have an HR department. All right, they do, and they need to keep getting sent to human resources.
Frank, this has been a joy.
I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
You're welcome.